Hello, everyone. My name is Tomasa Nelson, and we are going to get started. Today's workshop is active learning techniques for different participation modes. And in today's workshop, we are going to talk about defining active learning, describing the value of active learning, exploring active learning activities and engagement tools, and describing strategies for creative active learning activities. And then finally, we are going to apply active learning techniques and engagement tools to different participation modes in a practice activity. So we're going to get started with just a few of the foundational concepts. And those begin with the learner continuum. We start first at the behavior level. And in this theory, we talk about knowing what. In this case, the learners are being able to recognize and apply the standard rules, facts, and operations of either a profession or a subject matter. They also have declarative knowledge, which we talk about rote memorization, feedback, positive reinforcement strategies. So that may be conducted through quizzes or multiple choice tests. So this is the behavior theory, and then we move into the cognitive level where we talk about knowing how. So in this area, we are teaching students how to learn by teaching them problem-solving tactics where defined facts and rules are applied in unfamiliar situations. We have an increased level of knowledge, which is more procedural, where students are able to reflect or pairize, summarize, annotate, concept map, or even use algorithmic problem solving and showing how to solve a problem or apply what they've learned. And lastly, we have our constructivist theory, where we are reflection in action. So this is more of doing. We're dealing with ill-defined problems through reflection in action. And ill-defined problems is basically there isn't one right solution. There isn't one way to solve the problem. And students are able to reflect, which is more of the cognitive level. And they're also able to do, which is more of an active level. So in this case, we're demanding higher level of knowledge. Some of the active learning techniques may be problem-based learning, case-based learning, cognitive apprenticeships, or even debates. And this is also discussed in one of our prior workshops concerning assessments. So this is just a basis level. This is foundational concepts of the learner continuum. And then we're going to move into how does this apply in the higher order thinking skills mode. So we map those concepts to higher order thinking skills. When we're talking about remembering and understanding, that maps to the behavior level of being able to recall facts and basic concepts, explain ideas or concepts. And at the cognitive level, we're applying and analyzing. So students are using information in new situations, also analyzing, they're able to draw connections among ideas. And then at the constructivist level, we're looking at how we evaluate information by justifying a standard decision, and then creating, which is actually producing new or original work. So how does this all tie into active learning? Active learning is a teaching approach that aligns the cognitivist and constructivist perspectives of learning. In this case, a greater degree of responsibility is given to the students to actively construct knowledge with existing knowledge and experience. So this is taking into account that our students are coming into the learning environment with prior knowledge. And we are basically facilitating the process of allowing them to connect that prior knowledge to new knowledge and also to construct knowledge of their own. So what is the value of active learning? Active learning is a highly valuable instructional strategy that has shown proven success in the areas of student engagement and performance. A meta-analysis of 225 studies comparing students' performance in STEM courses with and without active learning practices found that the average examination scores improved about 6% in active learning sections versus traditional learning strategies. And just to give a little background, traditional learning is basically teacher-centered, where the students become passive receivers of information. So they're not actively engaged. And that is opposed to active learning, where the students are actively engaged in the learning process. So let's talk about the active learning theoretical underpinnings. We already covered a few, but basically active learning, as Bonwell and Eisens states, is instructional activities involving students in doing things and thinking about what they are doing. So from the cognitive perspective, remember is cognitive and constructive perspectives that contribute to active learning. The cognitive perspective is thinking. So students practice connecting new information with prior knowledge. And some of the characteristics of cognitivism is metacognition, where students are self-aware of their own thought process, structuring, organizing, and sequencing information. And then they're illustrating, and they're also being encouraged to connect between prior knowledge and new information. Now, when students are engaging in the constructivist perspective, they're engaging with course materials, peers, and their instructors. So the characteristics of constructivism is authentic. So it is basically content that is applied in a real world context. It is meaningful and purposeful. So that ties into the learning objectives, which contribute to a real world context that translates to the students and what they may experience in their daily lives. Again, connecting that prior experience and knowledge with new information. And it's collaborative. So students are actively involved and engaged with not just the content, but with their instructors and of course their other students, their peers. And there's also social negotiation. So this is where students are learning how to be self-aware of their own thoughts, but also promote their own thoughts with providing supporting evidence, research, and basically being able to take a stand and state their own, share their own perspectives, which leads to multiple perspectives. So students are engaging in multiple perspectives. There's not just one point of view from the instructor. They're engaging with other perspectives from other students, and even the materials may have opposing perspectives. So again, cognitive perspective and constructivist perspective contributes to active learning. So what are the roles in active learning? We have both instructor roles and student roles. For the instructor, we are scaffolding an authentic learning environment. So again, we're making sure that this translates into real world context. It promotes meaningful, purposeful, and collaborative learning activities. So meaningful and purposeful are usually our learning objectives, which informs how the student is going, what they're going to learn and what they're going to be able to do. And then again, being able to collaborate with with their peers and with the instructor. And then the instructor moves out of the teaching role more so into the facilitating role, and they're facilitating the learning process, which leads into coaching. So the instructor can become more of a coach. They may coach through inquiry, posing questions that elicit discussion and reflection, allowing students the opportunity to reflect on what they've learned. Also modeling information, so providing examples of what success looks like in completing this learning activity, or even doing the actual activity. And then for the student role, students are constructing and co-constructing knowledge with their peers and instructors. So again, just tying back into that, students have prior knowledge. So they're able to construct new knowledge, and then they're able to co-construct knowledge by sharing and receiving information from their peers and instructors. also engaging with the course material, and engaging with peers through collaboration. So that may be group projects and social negotiation. Again, being able to articulate their thoughts and provide supporting evidence and share with their peers. And so we also have active learning, since we've covered what active learning is from the theoretical perspective, as also the roles of active learning. We also apply active learning to different participation modes. So the different types of participation modes, active learning is adaptable to in-person, online synchronous, and online asynchronous participation modes. So for in-person, basically students attend class in person on campus. And online synchronous means that the class meets online via video conferencing technology, which may be Zoom at a scheduled time. And then online asynchronous, all of the course materials are available online. For us, it may be Canvas, Learning Management System, and students can complete weekly work independently in their own time. So just keeping in mind that active learning is adaptable to these three different types of participation modes. So what engagement tools will support these participation modes and support active learning? So active learning technology tools promote student and instructor engagement and establishes a deeper learning experience through student collaborations and mastering of learning outcomes. So we're just going to look at very basic engagement tools, but I would note that there is a plethora of learning technology tools that you can use to engage students using the active learning technique. But we're just going to talk about a few of the basics. So for group work, we have Canvas group discussions, and these tools are basic, but they're very, very robust, provide a very robust learning experience when applied to the design and facilitation of your learning activities. So again, group work, you have Canvas group discussions, shared documents, we have Office, Microsoft Office 365 or OneDrive, and even Google Documents. Peer reviews, where students can provide feedback to other students. We have peer reviews available in Canvas assignments. And then there's video and audio, which is available through Canvas Studio. Lastly, but not leastly, we have web conferencing through Zoom, which you can use breakout rooms, polling, chats, whiteboards. So these are just the basic engagement tools that you can use to support active learning activities. So let's talk a little bit about active learning techniques. So active learning activities with clear instructions grounded in a real-world context allow students to reflect, so they are, again, self-aware of their own thought process and what they're learning. And then also to practice. So students are able to practice what they learn, not only by themselves individually, but collectively with their peers and instructors. They're also able to collaborate, and they're able to apply higher order thinking skills. And also they're able to receive feedback from the instructor and their peers. So this will promote active learning. So active learning, other active learning techniques or strategies, this is provided by the University of Michigan, range from simple to complex. So as you can see on the scale here, you have very simple, just a minute writing paper, which may be self-reflection. It may be a peer review as we move up the spectrum here, where students are engaged in providing feedback to other students, or even case studies where they're involved in either conducting a case study or examining a case study. And as we move up the spectrum, you have role playing, where students may actually have to be assigned a role and conduct the role. Also experiential learning, where students may have to learn about a community and go and participate in a community event and participate and share that information back with their peers and instructor. So as you can see, active learning techniques range from very simple to very complex strategies. So we're going to look at a few active learning techniques, and we're also momentarily going to take some time to apply some of these active learning techniques in different participation modes. So the first is think, pair, share, and this is a commonly used active learning technique. Many of you may use it already in your classroom, but it is used to engage students, encouraging students to use their critical thinking, problem solving, and communication skills. So students will think through a problem or question, and then they'll pair with their peers to discuss the solution to the problem, and then share their solution with the instructor and the remaining peers. So engagement tools that can be used to support a think, pair, share activity for in-person, we do have an active learning center, but as well as your regular classroom, you have whiteboards, group seating, screen TV monitors, microphones, and shared documents. So that is a way to support this active learning technique if you're conducting an in-person active learning activity. Now, synchronously, if you are using Zoom, you have breakout rooms, polling, chat, whiteboard, presentation that is available in Zoom. And then you have shared documents, which students can, you can send a link and students can share a document and complete work that way. And then asynchronously, we have Canvas Learning Management System. So you can apply think, pair, share. You can use group discussions, shared documents, assignments, which you can use peer reviews. And then you have Canvas Studio, which promotes both audio and video use. So this is an activity, think, pair, share, active learning technique. Another active learning technique is called Fishbowl. Again, this is a commonly used active learning technique, which you may have already used in your classroom, but it is used to engage students, encouraging students to use their metacognition, problem solving, and communication skills. So students in the Fishbowl activity actively participate in the discussion of a select topic, and the students outside the Fishbowl listen and take notes. And then students take turns in these roles so that they practice being both contributors and listeners in a group discussion. So engagement tools that you can use in person, again, your whiteboards, you can also do group seating, screen TV monitors and microphones, shared documents. And then synchronous, again, we have Zoom and all of the features of Zoom, and then you have shared documents. And then asynchronous, again, Canvas, you have group discussions, shared documents, assignments, peer reviews, Studio, which gives you both audio and video components. So the next one is the muddiest point. And this is also a commonly active learning technique used to engage students. And this encourages students to use their critical thinking and reflection skills. So students share their misconceptions and thoughts about course, lecture, assignments, or materials. And engagement tools to support this is the same type of tools in person. Again, whiteboards, you can have regular or group seating, screen TV monitors, microphones, shared documents. Synchronous, we have all the features of Zoom and shared documents. And then asynchronous, we have Canvas, group discussions, shared documents, assignments, peer reviews, Studio, audio, and video. And I just want to point out again that these are just basic engagement tools. You may research and find other tools that are available that you would like to use to support this active learning strategy as well. So what we're going to do next is we are going to do a practice activity. But before we do the practice activity, I'm just going to do a walkthrough of what it is that we're going to be doing. So in this activity, the purpose of this activity is to engage students using an active learning technique. The challenge is aligning active learning techniques and engagement tools with different participation modes. So we're going to use the active learning adaptation chart to help with adapting an in-person active learning technique to an asynchronous or synchronous participation mode. So if you give me just 1 second, I'm going to show the adaptation chart, and we're going to review the example. And basically what we're going to walk through is applying an active learning technique and engagement tool to different participation modes using the active learning adaptation chart. And then in the end, present the active learning adaptation chart. So the success of this adaptation chart is to complete and present an active learning adaptation chart, successfully aligning active learning techniques and engagement tools to different participation modes. So if you give me 1 second here, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And then I am going to share our the chart. Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen okay. So what we are going to do, and this is just an example, we are going to momentarily break out into either synchronous or asynchronous groups. And we are going to apply an active learning technique to 2 different participation modes. So as you can see here, as an example, here's the active learning strategy for the muddiest point. And we basically ask students to answer what is the muddiest point in maybe a lecture, book, discussion, or film. So in person is already completed. How would we apply this active learning technique to an in-person participation mode? So in this instance, what the instructor would do is use a Post-it note or online poll or collaborative document to record a muddiest point, and then the instructor will review and discuss everyone's muddiest point with the class. So if I was to apply the same active learning strategy to a synchronous participation mode, then where we're meeting online via video conferencing, so maybe Zoom at a scheduled time, then we would encourage students to identify any unclear muddy points at the beginning or maybe middle or end of class. And then we'll either add muddiest points to a chat room or even a shared document. And then we'll take turns, we'll share and present this, their muddiest points on the screen where students can share and discuss in the conversation. Now, if I am in asynchronous, if I am applying this active learning strategy to a asynchronous mode, then all course materials are available online and students can complete their work individually in their own time. So we're not in a scheduled time zone and we're not meeting face-to-face. So maybe I'll pose, instructor can pose a question in a Canvas discussion forum or other shared space where students can provide and share their discussion in either written form or maybe even video form. So this is just a way of applying an active learning strategy, which is the muddiest point, to an in-person mode, participation mode, a synchronous participation mode, or an asynchronous participation mode. Momentarily, we're going to discuss the practice activity, but you will see that you will have information for Think, Pair, Share and what this active learning strategy consists of. And then you will see how it applies to in-person. You will either be assigned to the synchronous or asynchronous group, and which you will come up with ways to apply this strategy using just basic engagement tools to a synchronous mode or an asynchronous mode. And you will either be given the synchronous breakout room where you will apply Think, Pair, Share in Fishbowl, or you will have the asynchronous room where you will again apply Think, Pair, Share or Fishbowl to the asynchronous participation mode. So just give me 1 second here. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay. Sorry, I skipped ahead a little bit. Okay, so we are going to break out into our rooms momentarily. Again, you will be assigned asynchronous or synchronous group. And then what you're going to do in your group is you're going to discuss and share how you can implement Think, Pair, Share and Fishbowl active learning techniques and engagement tools in either an asynchronous or synchronous participation mode. Okay, so you have 5 minutes to discuss this with the people in your group, either for synchronous participation mode or asynchronous. And then you're going to summarize your discussion and complete the active learning adaptation chart. So you're going to come up with a summary of how you will apply this, as you've seen listed in the muddiest point format. And then after that 5 minutes, you're going to return to the main room, and then you will discuss your active learning adaptation chart. And we'll spend about 10 minutes on that. So I'm going to place the link in the chat for the adaptation chart, and then I'm going to open up the room. If you give me just 1 second here. Okay, so everyone should have access to the link. And just give me 1 second and we'll start our breakout rooms. Okay. Okay, so everyone should be assigned to a room. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and then we'll start with the synchronous participation mode, and we will share how we applied the active learning technique using engagement tools to the synchronous participation mode. And I think it's Anya and Brian in that group. So we'll start with you first. Just give me 1 second and I'll share the screen.
Sure.
Okay. Is everyone able to see the screen okay?
Yes.
Yes. And do you want us to start with think, pair, share or fishbowl?
Yes. You can start with think, pair, share. We can start from the active learning strategy, how it applies to in-person, and then you can speak to the synchronous.
Yeah, sure. So think, pair, share. Basically, students are presented with a question, are given time to think a little bit about it, then they're paired and discuss the question or their thought process, and then they share what they have discussed. So I think it works very similar between in-person and synchronous. So the main difference is that instead of going to the different, let's say, parts of the class, different tables, they would go into the different breakout rooms. They would be presented with a question first, question. They would be given a moment to reflect on that. Then the breakout rooms would open and students would either self-assign or be like randomly assigned depending on how many questions were given. If they choose between the questions, or if there is one question, then they could be like automatically assigned. And then in the breakout rooms, they would spend some time with a teammate or teammates, and they would return to the main room for sharing. Or I just realized we could also have another option of having them navigate between the breakout rooms and kind of share their experience, maybe like have a designated person from each room to go to a different breakout room, or have a classroom discussion after the, kind of everyone shares. So there are different ways. Yeah.
Okay. That is great. Does anyone else have any other great ideas on how to use Think, Pair, Share with Synchronous? Anya post of different options that can all be used in using Zoom technology. So does anyone have any other ideas they would like to share? Okay. Well, we'll move on to Fishbowl. Anya?
Sure, you want me to continue? So, and Brian added the last sentence, so he can take over.
Oh, or Brian, yes.
So it works kind of similar. So the fishbowl activity, we have two circles, inner and outer circle, and the inner circle discusses the question, and the outer circle observes the discussion. So to translate it to a synchronous modality, we would start with presenting a question, like the previous example. We would have a breakout room for creating an inner circle where students can discuss it. And then we were thinking that students in the outer circle could navigate between the breakout rooms, or students from the inner circle could return to the main room with the rest of the students been there. And then Brian, do you want to talk about the discussion board?
Yeah, I think having a after-class discussion board and having some students discuss and pose a question on the board, and then having other students respond to it and interact that way, I think could also work for this type of teaching.
Yeah, and also just to add to what Brian said, it could be a shared Google document, and I think it would work really well if, for example, people, all the students are given the access to the same shared document, and people in the breakout room would put notes into that document, and that would allow people outside of the breakout room to observe those notes.
Great. That is an awesome idea. You can either use discussion board after class, like Brian mentioned, and another way of using that engagement tool, a shared document, is another great way of facilitating the discussion within the Zoom session. So those are great ideas. Anyone else would like to share any ideas for Fishbowl in the synchronous session? Participation mode. Okay. Well, if we're done with that, I would like to say thank you, Anya and Brian, for sharing. And then we're going to move over to the asynchronous mode. And we will talk about Think, Pair, Share using the asynchronous mode, which is all course materials are online, in this case, Canvas, and students can complete their work individually in their own time. So would you like to speak to Think, Pair, Share in the asynchronous mode?
Sure thing. So again, just keeping in mind, students aren't meeting with one another, at the same time. And so that's something to always note. And so for the Think, Pair, Share, where students are in their groups, students are assigned in groups and think about what the discussion is. Then they will be paired off to discuss what they have come up with. This is all done, I guess, via a basic Canvas assignment where the instructions are laid out, the groups are noted, everybody knows who's who and who's with who. Then in groups, they meet with the instructor to discuss. That could be used, you can use a tool such as a calendar invitation or something like that, where you can all kind of agree when to meet. And then to meet with the instructor to discuss. So we can use Zoom, Canvas discussions, and then when they do post their final thoughts in a Canvas discussion, make sure we turn on that feature where the students have to post before they see other posts, just to keep it a little bit more zesty and interesting.
Awesome. Does anyone have any other ideas to share with Think, Pair, Share? I think these are some pretty great ideas. Anyone else? You're applying Think, Pair, Share to an asynchronous participation mode. Okay, if not, we're going to move on to Fishbowl.
You want to?
You want me to go? Okay, so we discussed in the fishbowl mode active learning technique. We know that there are students inside the fishbowl, and they are actually doing the discussion, and then the students outside the fishbowl are observing and taking notes. So the students are assigned to the groups, and they think about what the discussion is and bring their critical thinking skills to the table. And then they'll be paired off to discuss what they've come up with. And in groups, they meet again with the instructor to discuss. And I'm sorry, I'm reading from Think, Pair, Share. The students in the inner circle, they record their discussions. They think about their discussions first. They use their critical thinking skills to reflect, and they think about their discussion. They record the discussion, and they combine it on a video or in a video, and then they post it to the teacher-made documents such as PowerPoints for the outer circle students to watch. And the outer circle students, they take notes, and they use virtual sticky notes using PowerPoint shapes, and post their thoughts around the slides.
Okay, this is awesome. That's great. Is there any other ideas on how to use Fishbowl in a synchronous mode?
Yeah, I think I would create a Canvas group to, define that fishbowl of the students.
Mm-hmm. I think that's a good idea as well. You can create a group discussion and also have students to post their video there as well. But also combining in a PowerPoint, I think that's an innovative approach to for students to be able to critically think through and apply what they've learned, and also reflect and share. So these are all dynamic ideas. And as we can see, there's so many different ways that we can apply active learning techniques and engagement tools to any participation mode, particularly in person, synchronous, and asynchronous. So that was the goal of this activity, just to start thinking of different ways of applying these active learning techniques, and just using our basic engagement tools, which are robust in experience, to apply these to our courses. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to also share some other tools, tips, and strategies. If you give me just 1 second here. Let's see.
May I say something while you're here?
Sure.
Okay. One of the things that Kevin brought out too while we were discussing the active learning technique of Fishbowl was we're in the mode of using the Canvas, just kind of thinking outside of the box as to what we could do that students aren't used to, may not necessarily use as the norm, if you will, of what we do. So we're trying to think outside the box with the PowerPoint sticky note type of technique, or should I say engagement tool. So Yeah, it did definitely for me open up to think again, try to think of what we have access to that we don't normally use for that, possibly for that purpose, at least for myself, for my classes. So I thought that was pretty cool. Kevin came up with the idea, so all kudos to him with that one.
Awesome, Kevin. Yes, the tools are, some of our basic tools are dynamic in their impact and how we can use them in active learning activities. Just your basic shared documents, your PowerPoint, you can share that link and all the students have access to the link. And again, like Kevin mentioned, they can add sticky notes and things of that nature. And then they can also expound on their own creativity. So that's them constructing their own knowledge and applying it. So, so kudos to you, Kevin. And that's a great way of applying that in asynchronous mode. I'm just going to share a couple of documents. I will also place these links in the chat, but these are just other spreadsheets that will help with designing your active learning techniques. And you will see that it is structured in the very way that we just conducted this activity. So this is the residential to remote active learning strategies by instructional modality. I think it's provided by Colorado State University. And as you can see, it breaks it down by Bloom's taxonomy. So knowledge, recall, and understanding some of those foundational concepts that we talked about in the very beginning. And then it talks about the active learning strategy, and then the different participation modes, remote synchronous, remote asynchronous, or even a physically distanced classroom. So it just gives you a variety of ways of applying these different active learning techniques, like polling. How can we use polling in a synchronous or even an asynchronous classroom, even in person? So a lot of information here. You'll see Think, Pair, Share, and some of the other ones that we've discussed, but also some very new instructional strategies. So this is something that you can take and just learn to build on when thinking about how you want to design an active learning strategy for your classroom. And then there's another document, and please let me know if you could see it. It's teaching tools, active learning while physically distancing. Is everyone able to see this document okay?
Yes.
Okay, so this one is provided by Louisiana State University. And again, it just it gives you goals of engaging content, what will be covered, learning and support communication skills. So again, we have Think, Pair, Share. It is very commonly used, but we also have those different participation modes. So synchronous, asynchronous, and even a physically distanced classroom. So again, all of these different active learning techniques, as you can see, it talks about different engagement tools, some that we did not discuss, but you have Edpuzzle, Padlet, you have a lot of different other ones, how to use the poll feature in Zoom. So there's a plethora of tools out there that you can use to actively engage your students. So again, I'll be placing these links in the chat, and you will have access to these charts.
Will we have access to this, the entirety of your discussion today, your lecture?
Yes,
Thank
you will
you.
have access to this recording as well. I think, Kevin, will it be placed on the on our SharePoint site?
Yeah, there's a SharePoint site. As soon as we go through and it's upload, if we're going to do any sort of editing, we'll go ahead and upload it and then share that with everybody who's attended.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So we've conducted our practice activity, and we've also talked about the active learning strategy tips. I will leave these links. I will place these links in the chat momentarily. And then I just want to know, did anyone have any questions? I know that we had a little bit of discussion, but did anyone have any questions? Okay. So if there's no questions, I'll go into what's upcoming, what's next. And that is our active learning techniques for different participation modes, remote via Zoom, which you've attended today. It's also offered June 24th and June 28th. You do not have to attend the next workshop. This one will suffice, but if you like to, we welcome you back. And then we also have HyFlex instruction, and this is a two-part series. HyFlex instruction 1, which will discuss HyFlex pedagogy and policy. This will be conducted remotely via Zoom. It will be offered June 27th, July 7th, and July 12th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And then we have HyFlex instruction 2, which is HyFlex technology. This will be conducted in person, and you must attend HyFlex instruction 1 to attend HyFlex instruction 2. This will be conducted July 15th, and this one is 12 p.m. to 1:30 p.m., so it's an hour and a half. Also July 18th, July 20th, and July 25th. So these are our upcoming workshops for the summer, for our summer training. If you have any questions, sorry, I'm all the way at the end. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us at the Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. We are here to meet your teaching and learning needs. You can reach out to us. We have a workshop scheduler, which I'll show just one second here. So we have our workshop scheduler here, which you can schedule anytime. You can go here to schedule for our CETO 2022 summer training, active learning techniques, HyFlex instruction 1 and HyFlex instruction 2 provides you with the dates and the times there. And once you schedule, you just enter your information, and then you will receive a confirmation. So again, please feel free to reach out to us. And also we have our workshop evaluation. So I'm going to place these links in the chat. We are approaching our time here. So I'll place the links for the workshop, for the 2 documents that we discussed and our workshop evaluation, which you can complete in your own time. But we do appreciate you and thank you for attending today's presentation. So if you could just give me 1 second, I'm going to place all of those links in the chat here for you. And I am placing the link for our workshop evaluation. If you can please complete this in your own time, we greatly appreciate it. Your feedback is very important to us. And that will conclude today's presentation. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to CETO.
Thank you so much. Will you also send those links as an email? Because sometimes it's, it's helpful to have them. Okay.
Yes, I can follow up with an email to you all. With
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. And you
Have a
guys
good
have a
one.
wonderful day.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.